Let me explain something about infertility that a lot of women are not aware of. You need to understand what is really happening so that you will know why you're probably not conceiving or taking in. This is how conception takes place in a woman's body. An egg is released during ovulation. From the ovary, it travels down to the fallopian tube where it now sits and waits to be fertilized. And then when you have intercourse at this particular time, a sperm travels down to the fallopian tube, comes in contact with the egg and fertilizes it. As soon as this egg is fertilized, the next thing the egg is supposed to do is to travel down from the fallopian tube to the uterus, which is your womb, where it now anchors and begins to develop into a baby. Now, this is the natural concept. This is how it is supposed to happen. Unfortunately, this is not how it's happening with a lot of people. There are some women that have a problem we call pelvic inflammatory disease, and this pelvic inflammatory disease, what it usually does is that it causes problem in your reproductive organs. First of all, pelvic inflammatory disease, in short form PID, is caused by untreated infections. When you have infections like STI, vaginitis, cervicitis, or any other infection that eventually travels up to your pelvic region, your reproductive region, it begins to cause damages in your reproductive organs. It can cause problem in your uterus, it can cause problem on the fallopian tube, and it can cause problem in the ovaries. Any of these part of the reproductive organs that this infection gets to, it can cause a damage. One of the damages it causes in your fallopian tube is that it causes what we call scarring. This scarring of the fallopian tube can build up a blockage on the fallopian tube, which causes problem when it comes to conception. Now, this is a fallopian tube, a tiny tube where a released egg is supposed to come to wait for a sperm cell to fertilize it, right? Now, when there is a blockage, it can prevent sperm from meeting with the egg in the fallopian tube. So that's why you see a woman complaining, I am ovulating properly, I am menstruating properly, why am I not conceiving? The problem is probably that the egg and the sperm is not coming into contact because of this blockage on the fallopian tube. So if this is actually happening, it will be very difficult for such a woman to conceive. But then there's another side of this whole story. It is possible for the sperm to maneuver the blockage and go meet with the egg and fertilize it. Why? Because the sperm is small, right? If the fallopian tube is not completely blocked, it's possible for the sperm to maneuver its way and pass through the blockage and fertilize the egg. But now this might seem like it's a miracle, but it becomes even more dangerous for the woman. Why? Because after fertilization, this egg is supposed to travel down to the uterus where it can now anchor and begin to develop into a baby, into a full pregnancy. But because of this blockage that is on the fallopian tube, this fertilized egg is unable to pass through to go to the uterus. It gets trapped in the fallopian tube, and when this happens, it can become a life risk. Why did I say it can become a life risk? Because obviously the fallopian tube is tiny, it is not built to carry a developing pregnancy. So when this egg is fertilized and is trapped in the fallopian tube, the egg begins to develop right there. And when this happens, it can cause a rupture, it can cause internal bleeding, and it can lead to ultimately death. When this happens, it becomes a medical emergency. If an emergency surgery is not conducted on that woman to remove that fertilized egg, this woman's life will be at risk. I hope you understand the whole concept I'm trying to explain. Blocked fallopian tube can be caused by pelvic inflammatory disease. Pelvic inflammatory disease is usually caused by untreated infection. Blocked fallopian tube can prevent sperm from fertilizing the egg because it blocks the passageway, preventing the sperm from meeting with the egg. But on most occasions, it can actually pass through the blockage and fertilize the egg. But when this happens, it can lead to a more life-threatening condition known as ectopic pregnancy. Ectopic pregnancy is a medical emergency that requires immediate surgery, or else the woman's life will be at risk. Why am I telling you all of this? I am telling you this because first of all, you need to diagnose yourself. You need to get tested to be sure that you do not have pelvic inflammatory disease. When a woman has an infection and it is not properly treated, maybe you've been taking antibiotics to suppress the symptoms and the infection is still there in your body, what happens is that this infection can begin to travel up to your pelvic region. And once this happens, it can start damaging the reproductive organs. This is how PID occurs, and this is how this scarring can happen in your fallopian tube. And when this scarring happens, it can lead to the situation I just explained right now. Find out your status. Make sure you do not have pelvic inflammatory disease. If you have pelvic inflammatory disease, please do not try to get pregnant. First of all, seek ways to completely cure that infection. It's unfortunate that most of the treatment you get today, synthetic drugs, antibiotics and all of that, is unable to completely clear off infections from a woman's body, which is where alternative medicines comes in. This is where alternative medicines like KD Healthcare traditional Chinese medicines come in. You need to seek proper treatment that can get into your body and clear off those infections. And if there is any scarring in your body, in your pelvic region, in your fallopian tube, this same treatment will address it, open up the blockages so that conception can take place and you will be safe. Because if you don't address this thing and you're trying to get pregnant, what if there's a blockage in your fallopian tube? What if ectopic pregnancy occurs? It becomes a life emergency. Take my advice right now. Get tested, and if there's an infection that has not been properly treated, get it treated. If there's PID, get it treated. If there's a blocked fallopian tube, do not try to get pregnant. Get it treated before you can try to conceive, for the sake of your own life and the life of your baby as well.